Alright guys, time to resume our Mark 262 cloning series. This is the third video. The first video we deconstructed some rounds of these, the Black Hills, focus, there it is, the Black Hills 77 grain OTM 556. Also used by the military and designated the Mark 262 Mod 1. We're trying to clone this guy. These are expensive, so we want to do it cheaper without sacrificing any accuracy or any velocity when compared to this guy. So that's the quest we're on. In video one, we talked over a whole bunch of stuff, but that's where we chose our first few powders that we wanted to test. The last video we tested Accurate 2520. It performed awesome. We came up with a really good potential clone load with Accurate 2520. Today I want to move on to Hodgdon CFE223. So that's today's powder. Now the biggest development since our last video is I got some of the Noslers. The 77 grain custom competition with the Nosler. Now in the first video when we were analyzing the bullet and comparing it to our 77 grain Sierra Match King with a Nosler, they didn't quite match up exactly. And the thought was that it was actually a Nosler bullet in our box of factory ammo. They've used both bullets in the past, right? We thought it was going to be Sierra, but we thought, but it was looking like it might be Nosler. Well, I've got them in hand now, and I've been able to have a look, and yeah, I don't think these are it either. Just looking at the Nosler design, it's much different. It's much more shallow and less significant, which blows my mind, because if you go out there looking for information about this, there's this story that the Sierra Nosler that they added to this bullet at Black Hill's request, or the military's request, or at somebody's request, was a shallow, half-hearted, insignificant attempt at an actual Nosler, while Nosler gave a real Nosler. If you look at this picture, that's completely opposite, right? The Sierra looks more substantial. Unless, I'm not an expert on anything, if you haven't figured it out yet by now. So I'm no expert on Noslers. Maybe there's some quality in that Nosler Nosler that the Sierra lacks, and I'm just not spotting it due to ignorance. All right, so I looked at the weight of the bullets, I looked at the length of the bullets, and I looked at the length of the bullet base to the ogive of each bullet. And here are kind of some updated numbers that show our new Nosler. They're a couple tenths heavier, they're a little bit shorter, and the bullet base to ogive length is substantially shorter. Almost 25 thousandths of difference between bullet base to ogive between the Nosler and the Black Hills bullet, and almost 40 from our Sierra. So it's just looking like this. The Black Hills bullet is indeed a Sierra. We're going to go ahead and go forward with this series and shoot both of them. We're going to shoot the Sierra and the Nosler. Our Nosler performed pretty poorly in the last video, but we did not have the one with the Nosler. So yeah, we're kind of starting from scratch here. This is our first time with this exact design. So for charge weights, back in video one where we talked about some of the information I looked up in Quick Load, very poorly by the way, right? Quick Load can be as accurate as you make it. It can only give you results when you really feed it all of the details, and I didn't. So this was a very generic Quick Load run, but it showed a max charge with CFE223 of 24.9. If we go on the Hodgdon website, they have data for the 77 grain Sierra Match King, and they show a max charge of 24.3. Now, so that is 223 pressure, so we know it would be a little bit higher for 556 pressure anyway. So I think Quick Load is pretty close at 24.9. So what I want to do is I want to round it up, and I want to shoot all the way up to 25.0. And then I want to step back from that in 0.3 of a grain increments. So that puts us starting out at 23.8 and working our way up to 25.0. Another thing about the Hodgdon data, it was done at an overall length of 2.260. We're a little shorter than that. We're going to shoot 2.246, which is what matched our box of factory ammo from Black Hills. For primers, we're going to continue to use the CCI number 41 here for a little while until I finally get a hold of some Remington 7.5s, because we're pretty sure Remington 7.5 is what was in our Black Hills. And for brass, we are using the exact same batch of Lake City brass from the last video. Now in the last video, these were virgin once fired range pickups, really. They had been fired in all sorts of different guns probably, and who knows where the heck they came from. So in that video, I had resized it with my Redding small base sizing die. You know, I resized them all with my Redding small base resizing die, and we just started from there. This time, however, they had all been through my gun. I used my Hornady comparator, cartridge comparator kit to measure the cartridge base to the shoulder. And as I was setting up my resizing die, I set it up to where I only bumped the shoulder a few thousandths. So I did not, crank my resizing die down as far as I could and resize them as much as possible. Trying to do it as little as possible. We want good function still, of course, but we want to work this brass as little as possible. And my small base die just, it goes a little bit too far, I'm learning. And I pulled out this Lyman ammo checker was a good way to demonstrate it. Like in my ammo box, in my box here, I've still got quite a few pieces that I had resized last time with that die setting. So here's a picture of a case that's been resized too much. And you can see that case head is just a little bit below flush, right? But if we look at one that I did today, where I only bumped the shoulder a few thousandths, you can see it's actually just slightly above flush. So this block is supposed to be, a SAMI minimum chamber, essentially. So we're not quite down there as far as our headspace goes, which is good, because hopefully this is enough for my gun. But if we do happen to run into some function issues today or something, this will be our most likely source to blame it on, because we've had no function issues with the bullets or the, any of that. So, and CFE223 is going to be a good functioning powder in this application anyway. So we won't be blaming it. We'll be blaming my resizing job. So we'll just see how that goes. As you might have seen, I have already primed this brass. Yep, I put it in the wet tumbler just for a little while after the last video, resized it, and I checked all of these and they really did not grow much. I trimmed to about 1.755 in the last video, and I didn't find any that were over 1.757. So I guess maybe that minimal resizing job helped a little bit. Maybe they didn't stretch as much as they might have otherwise. So I'm ready for powder. So I'm almost done seating and crimping the Sierras. They have gone pretty well. Nothing weird going on at all. Now what I did do, now that I have the final Nosler bullets we're going to use, I finally pulled out my gun and used a split neck case, if I can find it. It's somewhere around here, whatever. Have you guys seen me test maximum overall length with a split case before? Well, that's what I'm talking about. I don't know. I've got frickin' garbage 223 brass laying everywhere right now. Where did that go? Now it's going to bug me. There it is. Yeah, one of these, just a sized case that I put a split down the neck. I put a bullet in it and then chamber it in the gun and let the rifling finish seating the bullet and then take an overall length. It's a pain in the butt to do. There's easier tools to do that, but that's the way I did it. I was really surprised by the results. Our absolute maximum overall length with the Sierra would be about 2.3 inches. So that puts us about 54 thousandths off the lands. Now with the Nosler, I found it to be 90 thousandths longer. 2.390 was our max overall length with the Nosler. That is crazy. So that's pretty drastic ogive shape differences there, no doubt about that. Now in a recent video, someone had brought up that they were using the Hornady bullet comparator kit. You know, this little guy that you screw on your calipers and it goes down on the bullet and you measure overall length to the ogive. And what they had thought, and what I think a lot of people mistakenly assume, is that once you determine how far off the lands you are with a round, like let's say we somehow figured out this is perfectly kissing the lands of the rifling, it's right at maximum. So then we take an overall length with our bullet comparator, and the next time we pick a bullet, you know, whenever we switch to the next style of bullet, if we set it to that same length with our Hornady bullet comparator, then we'll be the same distance off the lands, right? No, that is not the case. This Hornady comparator does not measure the ogive at the same spot that actually touches the lands of your rifling. So different ogive shapes will have different readings with this tool. Now, out of curiosity, so we know, so our bore is what, 224, and I was looking around, it looks like in a 22 barrel, the rifling is about 2.5 thousandths tall, which is a total of 5 thousandths. So if we've got a 224 bore and we subtract 5 from that, that's about the distance between the land in the bore. About 219 is about what I came up with. So if we measure inside of this Hornady bullet comparator, it's coming out to 211, or yeah, there it's 212. It's kind of hard to measure that, but it's a long way from 219. So that's why this is measuring a tighter, a smaller diameter than your rifling. So it's farther up the bullet than the spot that actually first touches the rifling. Just wanted to bring that up and clarify it, because I see comments sometimes where I think people are maybe assuming that incorrectly. So, all right, so our bullet seating die is set for the Sierras. The way all these measurements are coming out, I bet if I seat this Nosler, it should be a little bit long, I hope. Yep, looks like it is. Actually, maybe not. That's 2.248. 2.246 is our target. I'm going to go ahead and seat this whole first row and get a number and see whether we need to make any adjustment. We've got a 4.9, a 4.8, and a 4.6. So we are just a couple thousandths long, so I'm just going to give this guy a little tweak. Let's try that setting. But this is a whole lot closer than I expected. No doubt about it. 2.246. 2.242, so that one's a little on the short side. Guys, 2.243. Now, let me throw on the Hornady bullet comparator and we'll compare our Sierra versus Nosler rounds. All right, 1.877 is what I'm seeing with the Sierra bullets at this 2.246 inch overall length. So let's have a look. Yep, 1.863 is the number I'm getting with the Noslers at this same overall length. So is that 14 thousandths difference measuring by this? So that's not bad. Let me go ahead and seat these last two in this row, and then we'll switch over to the crimp. I've been leaving the crimp die. It's still set the same as it was in our last Mark 262 video, and it's also the same setting we've been using on the Bob's Bullets video. Pretty light, but it's there. Like these case mouths are getting collapsed into the cannelure just a touch. So last Mark 262 video, we measured it, and it was, what, 2 or 3 thousandths different measurement right there at the case mouth than the little lower on the neck. So that's, yeah, we're doing the same thing we did in the last video. And our cannelure alignment looks good with the Nosler. Looks very nice. So that's it. I've got 20 more to seat, and then we are ready for the range. Okay, so in the last video, we kicked things off by shooting a group with the Mark 262 factory ammo to warm things up and do a baseline for that day. I want to skip that this time. And the reason is that in the last video, several people in the comments section mentioned that they would like to see concentricity readings for that factory ammo. I decided to take a little bit of our Patreon money and buy a concentricity tester. So that is on the way. So I want to keep all of the, Mark 262 factory ammo we've got held back so that we can test it for that. So our target is at 100 yards. This gun here has got an 18-inch white oak armament barrel. All of the other details about the gun will be down in the description. We're going with pink dots today that I put a little Sharpie dot in the middle of and then outlined. It's looking a little dusty. I understand that. I'm working on it. I need a smaller aiming point than the 1-inch dots I've been using provide. So I don't know, getting these guys centered has been an issue. So I'm thinking maybe if I could find small squares and then put them on the target, sideways for a diamond pattern, that might be good. I don't know. Let's get to shooting. What we've found recently here with this barrel is that the first couple groups with the cold gun are generally the best. Whether that has to do with me and my fatigue, or the gun. I think we're still trying to figure that out for certain. But today we're not going to shoot any warm-up shots at all. Gun is completely cold, and I want to start with the Nosler bullet. So 23.8 grains of CFE223 with the Nosler is going to be our first group. So let's get going. Okay, decent little start there with the Nosler. Man, 24.79. Yeah. Okay, 23.8 with the Sierra. Okay, that looks like another good group, but I'm having a hard time spotting our shots since we're shooting up into the writing. So let's go down. Yeah, let's go down a minute and a half. Yeah, that should be a little bit easier to spot. Okay, back to the Nosler. This is 24.1 grains. All right, so I think I'm a big fat idiot and went the wrong way on my scope adjustment. So now we're a foot high. Lovely. That's just lovely. We'll clean it up after this group. Screwed it up a little bit with that last shot, but by God, these Noslers are grouping pretty darn well. I like it. All right, this time let's go down. I don't know, there's 3 minutes. What did we go before? A minute and a half? I don't know. 24.1 with the Sierra. All right, we got some decent groups going. Next up, 24.4 grains with the Nosler. Hopefully the Velocity Fairy comes to visit this time. Sierra. Are they all in there? Am I missing one? If not, by God, that ought to break the half-inch barrier. You know, I would probably be upset about these low velocities if these groups weren't so freaking awesome. You know, and I keep telling myself, this is the way it was supposed to be. Like back in video 1, this is what we talked about, was probably needing at least 2 videos per powder. The first one just, you know, exploratory, find out what sort of velocities we're going to get. And then maybe another one to push it a little bit farther. So, yeah, I don't know. Back to Nosler, 24.7 grains. I'll tell you what, the circle I've got around the dots, the black line around the dots, is helping a lot. The dot I put in the center is useless, but the one around the edges, I'm able to, you know, line up my 4 crosshairs and then get the 4 segments of the dot lined up well. Yeah, basically, I feel like I'm holding better with this dot pattern. It needs a little bit more refinement, but we're getting better. All right, 24.7 grains with the Sierra. You know, this would be a whole lot easier with about a half-pound trigger in this guy. Do they make those for ARs? You know, 3.5 pound, this is a 3.5 pound CMC trigger, and it's an excellent trigger. I've got 3 of them, and they've done a pretty good job for me. But when you get down to shooting groups, like, man, whew, sometimes they feel like 10 pounds. Okay, back over to the Nosler, and what's our charge? Yep, 25.0 grains. Okay, so at 26.52, we're going to fall about 100 feet per second short of our goal, right? That's what we've been seeing with the factory ammo is about 27.50, 27.60, I think, something like that. But I like how those standard deviation numbers are shrinking. That 6.1 on the last group pleases me, definitely. So one last group to go. Here is 25.0 grains with the Sierra. Yeah, I gotta be honest with you, those last couple groups, my form wasn't exactly on point. Starting to get a little bit fatigued, but they still weren't bad. 26.89 feet per second with a 19.9 feet per second standard deviation. There was one shot that was 27.21, and all of the others were down in the 26.80 range. So yeah, I think we had one weird shot there on our last group with the Sierras. All right, let's get back to the bench and measure out some of these groups. I think we've got some good ones. All right, let's start out with a quick look at the brass, and it will be very quick because there is nothing at all to show you. Look at our max charges. Those are really nice, nice round primers. No ejector swipes or anything at all that I could find. Nothing weird going on the body of the cases. So everything looks outstanding. Okay, folks, this is the best group. This is the best target we've ever shot on this channel ever, and it's not even close. We've shot our fair share of 1/2-inch groups, and we've shot a couple in the 4s, but we just skipped past the 3s and went straight to the 2s here, brother. By far my best group. And then followed it up right next door with a 370. Freaking beautiful. Just beautiful. Like I mentioned, I think that guy was probably me. Both of these last 2 groups could have been a touch tighter, but I was starting to feel it. Because man, when the groups are small and the concentration gets going, and it's exhausting. It really is. Trying to keep that hold and make sure that you're not screwing up the groups. Definitely takes concentration. So velocities, we missed the mark, right? We only got up to 26.89 with our Sierra and 26.52 with our Nosler. I'm okay with that. So we need another video with CFE223. And what I probably need to do is take the velocity of every single shot we've got, put it on a chart. We can extrapolate out and see just how far we're probably going to need to go to hit our target and stuff like that. That's how we'll open the next video. Yeah, we'll push that crap to the next video. We'll pick a couple more charge weights and shoot them and hopefully get to our velocity target with CFE223, because I don't see any pressure signs that make me nervous about going farther. Hopefully our accuracy trend continues on up. It was outstanding. And hopefully our standard deviation continues to tighten. Yeah, this is the one I mentioned. There was one shot in here that kind of screwed this one up, but overall it seemed to be trending towards a tightening standard deviation, and it definitely was down here. Right? 30s, 20s, teens, and then bam, right there, 6.1. That's a good number. So hopefully that trend continues with both bullets. I'll tell you what we'll do. Here's what we'll do. We need to go hotter with CFE223 and Accurate 2520 from video number 2 that shot pretty well. We didn't get a chance to try the Nosler bullet with it, so maybe that's what we need to do. We need to do kind of a cleanup video where we shoot a little bit more 2520 to verify our previous results, and we go a little bit hotter with CFE223. Yeah, I like that plan. I'll tell you what, while I was sitting here putting this video together, you know, doing the editing, the number I came up with for the maximum overall length, how I was saying it was 90 thousandths different, that doesn't sit right with me. I want to test that again in the next video. That seems crazy. Like, these bullets are too similar to have that much difference. You'd think that would be, you know, visually obvious, but I don't know. So I'll redo that in the next video. And also, so our sizing went fine, you know, just bumped the shoulder a couple thousandths and we still fed just fine. No worries about function with a minimum sizing. So I will continue to do that. So I think that's where we'll leave this one. Tomorrow is going to be a Bob's Bullets video. It's actually going to be Bob's Bullets versus Hornady. Little 55 grain full metal jacket boat tail shootout with IMR 3031. So that'll be tomorrow. So if you want to help support the channel, come check me out at patreon.com/reloading, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.